Time magazine described Congressman Eric Cantor of Virginia as the person bringing the mojo back to the GOP. Lately, he's been getting more attention from the media, his party, even the president.
I'm going to keep on talking to Eric Cantor. Someday, sooner or later, he's going to say, boy, Obama had a good idea. It's going to happen. You watch.
The man President Obama working hard to convince, the #2 Republican in the House, is here with us now. Congressman Eric Cantor, welcome to State of the Union.
Good morning, John.
Let me begin by giving you an opportunity to respond to the president and his budget director, who was just in that seat, who says maybe you don't like their budget that they put forward, but Peter Orszag says the Republican alternative is privatizing Social Security. He says destroying Medicare. You would say?
Well, look, I mean, I think that what we got to focus on the fact is this country is in a heap of trouble right now, and we all got to work together, and we do have to change the way this town does business. That's how we're going to start to bring the economy back. And just as we did on the stimulus package, House Republicans presented a plan. I personally handed that plan to President Obama. President Obama said, Eric, there's nothing crazy in here, so we can work together. The problem has been, up until now, there is a real disconnect with what's going on in this town and what people across this country are feeling. You know, when they have to go in and make their decisions on their family budgets and decide not to take a vacation, decide not to put an addition onto their house, they look at Washington and hear Director Orszag and others say, look, we've inherited these trillions of dollars of deficits. Well, if you've got a situation like that, how in the world should you be going to make it worse? Families are not doing that. We've got to go in and tighten the belt and make sure that we deliver on the kind of things that people are expecting right now.
One of the things a lot of House Republicans were talking about as the week came to a close is the spending freeze. How would a spending freeze create a job or provide health care to somebody who's been tossed from their job?
Well, what we need to do is we need to focus on the job at hand, which is getting this economy back on track. And when you sit here and look at the budget that the president and his administration have presented and the Democrats are working on in Congress, it does not go at the problem. The problem is people, small business people right now are not taking home paychecks. They're having trouble keeping the lights on and sustaining the jobs. So why is it that we want to expand federal spending right now? Instead, we should be looking to the private sector. We should be looking at creating jobs, creating wealth, getting the small business people back into the game so we can see job creation at home.
You're critical of the president's policies. I want to ask you about the president's team. One of your members, a Republican member of Congress, greeted Secretary Tim Geithner at a budget hearing this past week by saying, it's good to see you, but I'm afraid to see you because every time you speak, bad things happen in the stock market. You're quoted in Newsweek as saying there's a question of confidence about the Obama team, and that's one of the reasons you think the markets have been in a downward spiral, that the Dow is in trouble because the markets don't have confidence in the Obama team. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't think the American people have got a lot of confidence in what's going on. You look and see what happened when, the stimulus, so-called stimulus bill came forward, and all America saw was pork barrel spending, a train from Disney World to Las Vegas, so I guess we could take more families into the blackjack tables. Then the next was an $1,100 bill that Nancy Pelosi brought to the floor, and the House members didn't even get to read it, nor did the public have the right to know. Now you've got President Obama's housing plan, where basically 92% of Americans that are paying their mortgage are being called on to subsidize those who aren't, essentially saying to the people playing by the rules, they've got to help those that aren't. No wonder people are outraged. No wonder you see $1.6 trillion of evaporation of wealth in the stock market since this administration started. We've got to get focused here. We have got to start doing the things that bring jobs back to this economy, which is exactly what House Republicans have been doing.
As that debate goes on, in the Washington Post on the op-ed page this morning, John McCain, leading Republican, the president's opponent in the last election, and Byron Dorgan, the leading Democrat, a more conservative Democrat in the Senate, say let's have an investigation. They believe there should be a select committee in the Congress to look at what has happened in the last year, the collapse of these financial institutions and what any role of regulations might have had in that, what the institutions might have done wrong. Let's take a big picture, investigative look at the economy, policy in Washington, what happened on Wall Street. Is that a good idea? Do we need a select committee?
Well, listen, we just need some policies that are focused on trying to get the economy going again. Again, it is about job creation. If we know that 70% of the jobs in this country come from small businesses and entrepreneurs, why are we not providing tax relief to them? There's no question. There's a lot of blame to go around as far as where we are. We've got an outdated regulatory system. We've got regulators that have not done their job. We've got plenty of blame to go around on Capitol Hill.
Sounds like you're skeptical, though, of having a big congressional investigation.
Again, this is not about a dog and pony show. This is real. I mean, I think that one of the statements made earlier this week is the stock market is a tracking pole. Are you kidding me? $1.6 trillion of value has gone away from people's life savings. People are hurting. No wonder they're so upset. We've got got to go and start producing and making a federal government that works again.
I want to veer off the economy for just a moment because the president's going to make a significant step tomorrow. He's going to sign an executive order lifting the restrictions on embryonic stem cell research put in place by President Bush. He had signaled during the transition that he wanted Congress to do that legislatively, but they have now decided to issue an executive order. Bad idea, good idea?
Well, John, look, I mean, certainly there is, a lot of discussion around this, but first of all, there's a reason why this discussion is coming up this week. Why are we going and distracting ourselves from the economy? This is job number one. Let's focus on what needs to be done. But as far as the issue of stem cell research, I don't know anybody who is not supportive of that. What we're talking about here, though, is embryonic stem cell research and the question of federal funding of that. And frankly, federal funding of embryonic stem cell research can bring on embryo harvesting, perhaps even human cloning that occurs. We don't want that. That shouldn't be done. That's wrong. Let's put the federal dollars at with the stem cell research that has produced results, which is the adult stem cell research, and let's get on with business here. But
you don't have the votes in Congress to block it, though, do you?
Well, listen, John, we haven't seen. We've got a new Congress now, and certainly that is something that we ought to be talking about. But let's take care of business first. People are out of jobs. And again, there's a reason why all this is happening right there.
I was just beating up the budget director a little bit about why President Obama won't use his enormous popularity to stop some of the pork barrel spending in this big spending bill that Congress is about to send to the president. And you don't have any earmarks. And your leader, John Boehner, doesn't have any earmarks. But if you look on the Republican side of the Senate, I want our viewers to look at this. The leader, Mitch McConnell, has $51 million in earmarks. Senator Shelby, the ranking Republican on the Banking Committee, $114 million in earmarks. Go through the Republican leadership in the Senate or the leading Republican members of key committees in the Senate, and you can see it on the screen right there, millions and millions of dollars in these earmarks. Do they undermine your Republican argument that this is wasteful pork barrel spending? And should you start by telling your own Republican colleagues across the hall in Congress you need to take those out?
John, let's call it how it is. First of all, if you make a promise, people expect that you live up to it. And that's why this administration's refusal to go in and change this bill, I think, is a false position. There is no way anyone could take what Mr. Orzog has said and with any credibility. Of course they're negotiating on this bill in the Senate right now. To say that we would have drawn it differently but leave $430 billion plus on the table like this? No way. People are expecting this administration to live up to the promises made.
But your moral argument is undermined by the fact that there are 40% of these earmarks are Republican earmarks.
Listen, John, Leader John Boehner and I have taken a public position advocating that all of our members adopt a moratorium on earmark spending until we can get a process in place that frankly demonstrates that these earmarks are awarded on merit, not on political muscle. It shouldn't be that because there is a congressional district that has more political muscle that they get more largesse. That we don't have the luxury to be acting like that in Washington right now. There's no question we've got to change this entire process. It is a system gone bad.
You are one of the new national faces of the Republican Party after 2 election cycles in which Republicans had not so good results. I think it's a tender way to say it. There's been a debate in the past week between the new Republican National Committee Chairman, Michael Steele, and Rush Limbaugh. A, is it helpful? And B, Michael Steele's quoted in the New York Times this morning in an interview saying, "I'm trying to move an elephant that's become mired in its own muck." Is that the state of the Republican Party right now? And where do you come in on this whole Steele-Rush back and forth?
Listen, the future of the Republican Party is tied to the future of this country. People right now are desperate for leadership, are desperate for us in this party as well as the other to begin talking about ideas that deal with the relevant challenges that they're facing every single day. And it is not about individuals. It's not about Rush. It's not about Rahm Emanuel. It's not about any particular individual. This is about ideas right now. Which ideas can we put into place right away to make sure that we address the challenges of this economic downturn? If we do not begin to start acting more like adults in this town and produce so that people can get back to work, you know, all of us are very concerned with where this country will end up.
Congressman Eric Cantor, the #2 House Republican, we thank you for joining us here. Come back anytime. We'll continue the conversation.